Hi there, Chris Bench from HelloCollege. I am an essay coach. I work with students from across the academic spectrum, helping them to craft college essays to help them get into their dream schools. I am here today to talk to you about writing about mental health as a topic in your Common App essays. Now, there are two main kinds of essays that you have to write when you apply for college. The most important essay is the Common App personal statement. That is an essay, maximum 650 words. Is typically the longest essay that you have to write, that most students have to write anyway, for the college essay application process. And it's on a range of different topics. Though the second prompt that students can choose asks them to respond to a challenge that they have overcome in the past. Oftentimes, students see that prompt and they want to write about their struggles with mental health. And that can be a really good topic for students to write about, but it can also pose some very real challenges because it's a sensitive topic and because some colleges, unfortunately, have in the past been known to discriminate against students on the basis of mental health. Now, that is actually against the law. It is legal. Those colleges, when they are caught, if they are caught, they have been fined considerably in the past. You can Google around and find out who the offending culprits have been. But if colleges are getting caught doing this on a semi-regular basis, that means that there are probably plenty of other schools that are doing it, unbeknownst to the larger world in the background, quietly on the DL. And so that is something that you want to think about before you write about your mental health journey in any way, shape, or form. It is possible that some colleges will right off the bat see that, mark it as a red flag, and just sort of move along. So that is something to be thoughtful. It is not all colleges, and even the colleges that have been caught in this, certainly it is not all college counselors, not all admissions officers, but it is a possibility. Typically, that's it. If you ask me, it is terrible that colleges do this. It's really horrifying. Mental health is just like physical health. It's a thing that we have very limited control over, and that we should not be punished for experiencing challenges. Most people over the course of their lifetime will experience mental health difficulties at some point in time. But it is a reality that this is a factor that you should keep in mind. Most students, when they choose to write about mental health, it is for that main essay, that 650-word Common App personal statement. So that means that this essay goes out to all of the colleges, most likely, that you're applying to. You do have the ability to tweak this, which colleges see it on the Common App website. But it's hard to know in advance who may or may not be sort of discriminating on this basis. So there's not really a way for you in advance to be like, oh, I'll give it to this school, I trust them. I'll give it to this school, I don't trust them. Occasionally this will come up for what are known as supplemental essays. Supplemental essays are typically shorter. They go to individual colleges or sometimes groups of colleges, such as colleges in the University of California system. You might write an essay that goes out to all the University of California schools or to all Applied Texas schools. But typically supplemental essays go to just one individual school. Occasionally this will come up for a supplemental essay, but by and large it is for that main personal statement essay that goes out to all of the different schools. So before you write about your mental health journey for the Common App personal statement, you want to be really thoughtful about this. You want to be thoughtful for any college application essay, but doubly so for something having to do with mental health. You want to ask yourself a number of different questions. You want to think about what have the real challenges been in your mental health journey. Now you want to be careful about this. You don't want to dwell too long on the challenges that you faced. You want to acknowledge them, you want to name them, but you want to move on. Students who write about, the most common mistake that students make when writing about their mental health troubles is they focus on all the bad stuff for the majority of the essay, and they run into what I call the gangster movie problem. Now I love gangster movies. Some of my favorite movies: The Godfather, Mean Streets. And most gangster movies, if you step back and you look at them in whole, are sort of morality tales. They're cautionary tales. They're there to warn you away from living this sort of life. So if you watch Scarface, Al Pacino dies in the end in a hail of gunfire. If you watch Casino, Robert De Niro explodes in a car bomb. If you watch The Sopranos, Tony Soprano, he kills all of his friends in cold blood and alienates his wife, and his kids hate him. These are cautionary tales. These are not people that you should be looking up to. But the only way to remember that is to focus on the ending, to focus on what happens at the end of the story. Because along the way, Al Pacino looks real cool in those big lapels, and Robert De Niro looks real awesome, strutting through those casinos. And Tony Soprano's Tony Soprano. He's a cool guy. At least until you realize that he's living a terrible life, that all these guys are living terrible lives. And until you think about the ending, till the ending of the story makes the stuff in the beginning not seem like what's most important. And the same thing can happen for college essays about mental health. Students focus on the beginning. They describe the month that they spent, not being able to get out of bed, not really eating right, not talking, not talking to their friends, not having a social life, not going to school, not completing assignments, not studying for tests. It becomes a litany of one terrible decision after another. And these are not decisions, they're decisions that were brought about by mental health crises, by things that were out of the student's control. But walking away, that's what we remember. Just like people who sort of fetishize gangsters in gangster movies, we remember all the stuff before the ending, and we forget that, hey, at the end of that gangster movie, these guys die or end up, sad and alone. Just like in your college essay about your mental health journey, we're not going to focus on the terrible stuff. We're going to focus on the ending of it, on how you pulled yourself out of that funk, on how you turned your life around, on how you course corrected. So identify those challenges, but don't let those challenges be the entire story. I've talked for a long time. I'm making the same mistake I don't want you to make. I'm talking about all the stuff that you should acknowledge but move along from. So let's move along to some other stuff to focus on. The other stuff to focus on here, the stuff to really, really focus the majority of the essay on, is what you have learned from this experience. How have you grown and developed in spite of those challenges? How have you moved beyond those initial mistakes? You want to try to identify the positive aspects of your journey. What have you done to seek out help? Did you start going to the gym? Did you get yourself a day planner and force yourself to get out of bed to keep a schedule, even though you didn't really want to do it at the time, but you knew that getting your butt out of bed and going off and facing the day was going to make you feel better? Did you go off and seek therapy, seek medication? Did you talk to your friends who may have gone through had similar experiences and reach out to them for support, reach out to family members for support? What have been the places where you have really learned and developed and advanced in your journey? That's the stuff to focus on. That's the stuff to make the majority of your essay. How have you grown? How have you developed? We want to see you not stuck in that funk, but rising out of it, pulling yourself out of the swamp of depression or other mental health struggles that you may have had. You want to be strategic about what you share with your admissions counselor. You probably don't want to show them you on your very, very darkest day, and you don't want to be as descriptive about that. You want to provide, when you're providing imagery, when you're providing telling stories, especially if you're using sort of narrative or novelistic elements that sort of bring those scenes to life, you want to try to capture those moments where you're lifting yourself. Focus on the first day, on the day that you cleaned your bedroom. Your room was a total terrible mess that you didn't leave for 2 months. And one day you spent 14 hours, you just locked yourself in there, and you filled up 3 trash bags, and you vacuumed for the first time in months. And you did all of your, the piles of laundry that you had just been living out of for months on end. Tell us that story, give us those specific details about those more positive sort of aspects of your experience. Don't focus on the pizza box that you found under the bed that had been living there for 6 weeks. that had been growing some sort of extraterrestrial life in it. Um, One important story about this essay, and really any college personal statement essay, is that you probably want to start with a compelling introduction. Now, particularly with the mental health essay, this can be tricky because starting at the beginning of that story is probably starting with the bad stuff. And this intro is what's likely to be most memorable. So there's a couple of ways that you can play that. One is to focus on something later in the journey where you are, focus on you pulling yourself out and then sort of flash back to the good stuff. This is actually, I mentioned Casino earlier. Martin Scorsese's great Casino. Bright guy, Martin Scorsese, he knows how to tell a story. He starts with that car bomb. So you know right from the beginning that Robert De Niro is going to get what's coming to him. This can be start with that story about you cleaning your room so that we see right from the beginning that, hey, you're going to mention some rough stuff that went on, but we know that ultimately you got yourself out of this situation. Another way is to, give us a couple few sentences at the very beginning about you and your sort of dark place, but to make sure that you have some sort of more narrative, more descriptive, more immersive moment later in the essay where you focus on something more positive, on your ability to sort of overcome these difficulties. That's a slightly unconventional structure for one of these essays, but a slightly unconventional structure can also help your essay to stand out a little bit more. You want to be honest and authentic in these. Again, you don't have to tell every dark and dirty aspect of your experience, but be honest certainly about the emotional reality of what you were going through. That's going to come across in your writing where your readers are going to be able to see that in the page. And one real strength of an essay focused on mental health can be your ability to show, your self-knowledge, your self-awareness, your ability to self-evaluate, know what your strengths but also your weaknesses are, so that you can say, hey, I know this is something that I'm probably going to deal with for the rest of my life, and that I now have the tools on hand to combat them because I'm going to be watching out for it because I know myself and know this is a thing that I am going to have to deal with. These essays focused on mental health, they show your strength, they show your resiliency, and ultimately, typically they are quite positive if you structure them so that they tell that story in the right way. I've got a couple of examples of moments of paragraphs of sort of takeaways from some different essays that at HelloCollege we've worked with that have focused on mental health struggles. Just going to show them to you, talk them through with you in order to give you some examples that you might want to sort of work towards when you're writing your essay. So in our first example, it reads, I've faced a lot of struggles related to my mental health, but I've also learned a lot from these experiences. I've become a stronger person and have learned to appreciate the small things in life. I'm now on a mission to help others who are struggling with mental health issues and to provide them with the support that they need. And you see a lot of good stuff there. That sounds like a conclusion to me. That sounds like, hey, I'm coming through. I've had my journey. I've had my struggle. Now here's this richer, more sophisticated, more emotionally adept person at the end of my journey than I was at the beginning. We see how that person's grown. We see that they have new goals, more altruistic goals, the goals to help the people around them that they have developed over the course of their journey. In the next example here, my mental health journey has been a roller coaster with many highs and lows, but I have managed to come out of it stronger and more resilient. I've learned how to take care of myself and to accept myself for who I am. I'm now dedicated to helping others who are going through similar struggles. Again, we see this sort of self-knowledge, this awareness that hey, there are ups and downs in life. Not every day is going to be your best day. But to be successful in the long run means not focusing on each and every little hillock, not just letting one little dip just drag you further and further down, but knowing that when that roller coaster goes for a dip, you got to use that momentum to bring yourself upward. And that is what we see in this essay. Somebody taking that momentum upward, lifting themselves up based on, driven by the experiences that they had on that trip down the roller coaster slide. And last but not least, my mental health journey has taught me the importance of self-care and the power of resilience. I've become a better person and have developed a stronger sense of self-confidence. I'm now passionate about helping others to find the strength to overcome their struggles and to live a life of fulfillment. You see a lot of the same themes here. This sort of looking outward from oneself. Many mental health journeys, happen when people become very focused inward, or that inward focus results from the mental health struggle. That sort of opening out to the world is a common theme to think about as you sort of move towards the conclusions that you want to draw in this essay. I think it appeared really in all three of those quotes. All three of these are basically conclusion statements. Another thing that you might want to include in your conclusion are specific things that you want to do in college. Maybe you want to volunteer at a suicide prevention hotline. Maybe you want to work at the counseling center, volunteer at the counseling center. Maybe there's a mental health awareness group that on a campus that you want to think about signing up for. Or you want to say, hey, if there is a mental health awareness group at your college, I'd love to be a part of it. And if it isn't there, I'd love to be the person that founds that organization. Ending with a call to action, with you talking about the things that you want to do in the future as a result of what's happened to you in the past, is a great way to show how you've grown, how you've developed, how you've changed. And particularly, it's a great way to point your way to college. And the best conclusions are almost always sort of tell us why we care about the essay that we just read. And the fact of the matter is that any college application essay, we care about it because it makes a good case for you to be a college student at some admissions reader's college. And so by connecting this to things that you want to do specifically in school, specifically in college, it's a great way for your reader to take that moment where you were stuck alone in your bedroom feeling like you didn't have a friend in the world, and to see how it is going to ultimately lead you, how you're going to take that momentum that you had when you were at the very bottom of that roller coaster hill, and let it carry you upward into your college education, where you're going to apply those lessons and make yourself into a great and desirable college student. Thank you so much. My name's Chris Bench. I'm a college essay coach for HelloCollege. It's been my pleasure to help you with your college essays today.